and welcome again for this year's holiday marketing webinar. And this year we are going to be talking about effective Black Friday prep and strategies for navigating bargain hunters. Brought to you by MoEngage, a modern customer engagement platform, and with our partner Talon One, a flexible, headless promotion and loyalty platform. So today I am very excited because it's going to be a great session for a few reasons. Of course, number one, we have great speakers who are very well experienced in the field of customer engagement and retention. We've also got equally amazing topics lined up for you, including strategies for bargain hunters or discount savvy consumers. We've got how to break conversion barriers, specifically for high-ticket items, and some tips or strategies for last-minute Black Friday preparation, Black Friday, Cyber Monday, or beyond even marketing last-minute preparation. So, and of course, towards the end, we do have a special announcement and some giveaways. So I do hope that you will stay tuned all the way to the end. So let's move on to introductions. I am RB and I am the Senior Product Marketing Manager for MoEngage in Europe. And I will be your moderator for today's webinar. And with me are our key speakers. Julana, do you want to start?
Yes, hi, my name is Yolana. I am Marketing Director at Peloton. Our favorite season is starting now. So hence, hello.
Jan, do you want to?
Yeah, hi everybody, wherever you are. Gianfranco. I've been working in the CRM and personalization space for about 25 years now. So I've seen a few Black Fridays, as you can imagine. Been fortunate enough to work agency and brand side with some amazing brands, including Black Friday examples, the likes of EasyJet, Aesop, Avon International, and so quite a breadth of both ends of the spectrum in terms of premiumness of the product. And at the moment, I'm working as a CRM consultant and advisor.
And last but not least, Ali.
Hi, everyone. My name is Ali Isaac, and I'm a business value consultant with Talon One. I work with brands across different industries to create personalized incentives and loyalty programs across the customer lifecycle. Prior to working at Talon One, I ran a B2B loyalty program with a manufacturing company, as well as worked in the QSR space, working in the promotions loyalty area. But prior to jumping into all the content today, I wanted to say a couple words about the Talon One and MoEngage partnership. And essentially, by integrating Talon One with MoEngage, brands can easily orchestrate highly personalized incentives to engage their customers across channels to drive rich first and zero-party collection to enrich customer profiles. So really looking forward to this conversation.
Perfect. Thanks, Ali. And thanks, guys. Okay. So apologies in advance, by the way. I'm just moving my head from one side to another because I've got the number on here and I've also got the presentation on the side. So hopefully it doesn't annoy anyone, but sorry if it does. So just a quick run through. Now that you've met our speakers for today, just a quick run through of what we're going to be talking, just the flow of the webinar. So we'll kick it off by sharing some data points with you guys that we've gathered across different credible sources around consumer shopping behavior for 2024 leading up to 2025. And then, of course, we will then move on to the panel discussion with our speakers, and you'll get the chance to fire some questions. And then feel free to do so, by the way, as when we start our panel discussion, and if you do have questions, feel free to add them in the chat or the Q&A, and we'll pick them up as and when we go through the entire webinar. And then, of course, as I said, we'll have a special announcement at the end and some special giveaways too, surprise giveaways even. Brilliant. Okay, so moving on. As I mentioned, we have some data points that we're sharing with you guys, and these are some of them. Really, really interesting data points that we've gathered from several credible sources that may be useful to you as a retail or out of retail as well. Let's start off with the first one. So 65% of shoppers say Black Friday has the best discounts of the year. So people are really still holding off buying until Black Friday or Cyber Monday when they know that they can get best value for their money. Then 53% of online sales are forecast to happen on mobile devices. This is not surprising. I think you've read also from different articles, different pieces that have been published around how consumers tend to now buy or shop on smaller devices. So it's really important for brands to refine their mobile marketing strategies as well. 63% of shoppers are making more purchases from stores where they can earn and redeem loyalty points. Consumers are definitely more cautious about how they're spending their money, so making sure that they get the best value for their money. So sometimes it's now beyond money off, but all the other benefits that consumers will get from a brand will need to be taken into account when planning for your marketing or sales events for your business. 53% of shoppers are interested in using generative AI to find perfect person. Again, I don't think this is another surprise. Consumers are leveraging AI to find the right gift at the right price. However, 56% of global consumers said that they wouldn't share personal data online because they don't trust AI to protect it. So this is still a huge percentage of the consumers out there that are skeptical of generative AI or any form of AI and what that means to their privacy. So, and before I move on to the panel discussion, I just want to ask our speakers if you guys have got additional thoughts on the stats that I've just shared with everyone.
The only thing I'd say, Arby, is that, I mean, some of those numbers aren't really surprising. In fact, if I took the liberty of going back to last year's Black Friday webinar that MoEngage ran, and I remember at the time then thinking about the number of shoppers who wait for Black Friday and the number of shoppers who deliberately put off a purchase because their expectation is that Black Friday is the time when they'll get the biggest discount for that, in particular, large ticket item. I think that hasn't changed very, very much. And I think there's even more of an expectation that I'm not going to buy anything at full price these days. I'm going to wait for that time of the year when I'm going to get best value for my dollar, euro, pound, whatever. So I don't think that's too much of a surprise, really. And then just touching on the last point around global customers not wishing to share personal data. I know that AI is mentioned there, and I think that's just added another layer of complexity to the trust conversation. But we still end up with that privacy personalization paradox where they want personalized content. They want their items to be delivered, right? So there's a certain level of, I do have to share some of my personal data to get the service that I want. And I think the way brands will win in that space is if they inherently prove to consumers that they are a trustworthy brand. Because I think if customers trust the brand, they see the value exchange, they're going to give you the data. But you have to consistently prove that trustworthiness.
Right. Yes.
Yeah, and I think to add, in some markets more than others, right? Like we know that Germany, for instance, is a market where consumers are very they're all about data protection. They don't trust easily, especially when you're a company that's not German. It's even harder. So yeah, especially there, like focusing on trust and gaining the trust of the consumer is important.
And you just and I was going to say something, but in terms of the Joanna talked about Germany. I know that Talon One and Ali, they work across multiple markets as well. It's understanding each market as well. I was having a conversation with someone this morning, not related to this, but just how things like drive-through McDonald's works really well in the US, in the UK, but not in Germany, right? Because the Germans won't eat in their car because they respect their car too much. So again, you have to understand the local market when you're playing on these different timing points in the year.
Well, that makes sense.
No.
Right? Manufacture good cars. Sorry.
No, all good. No, you're completely right. When it comes to Americans, we are afraid to eat our cars, but it's something that people do often, including myself. But a couple of things that I would add to this, I would say from an American standpoint, thinking of Black Friday and Cyber Monday as kind of the Super Bowl of customer acquisition. So it's the biggest event, and John mentioned this is what people are waiting for. And a lot of times too, when people are purchasing on their app, they are getting something else for it. So those long-term incentives for the loyalty program, and then by customers giving up their data, that's value add to them that they expect something from the brand. So lots more to come.
Absolutely. Okay, good. Now we can move on to the panel discussion. I do have a few questions that I have prepared myself that I'm going to be asking our speakers. I'm going to stop sharing now so that you all can see their lovely faces better, I would say.
I didn't have a haircut in preparation, so.
But I must say that if you have any questions, now I can see if the audience has any questions, feel free to add in the chat or the Q&A, and we will pick those questions up as and when. So speakers, are you ready? Let's start with the first topic. So we'll start with, what are the top 3 classic essentials on your Black Friday, Cyber Monday marketing checklists?
Well, I think I said I would kick this off, right?
Yes, please do.
Because I'm going to be a little bit, not controversial, but might not be what people are expecting. This is me with my ESOP hat on, right? So when I was at ESOP, there's a brand that grew, when I was there in its 33rd year, it grew over the previous 3 decades, never discounting, right? So it's not quite true, because actually once a year there was a special promotion for customers, and bundled items often got a discount that was never shouted about, but there was a discount in that. And I was often approached by the local marketing teams. We should be doing Black Friday. We should be doing Cyber Monday, right? Because everyone else is doing it. But it wasn't right for the brand, right? And sometimes you have to stick to your principles and not go down the discounting route, just because. And this is difficult because the CFO will be on your back and the regional GMs will be on your back. But if it's not in the brand DNA, don't do it, or do it in a slightly different way that perhaps doesn't alienate the heritage of the brand. Because I know we'll talk about this a bit later on, but there are other ways of skinning that cat. I hope there are no animal lovers on the call. I didn't mean to offend any cat lovers, but there are different ways of approaching Black Friday, Cyber Monday, not necessarily having to go down the discounting route. Oh, I've upset somebody up there. Without going down the discounting route. So think about whether it's right for you, and what the approach should be for you and your brand and your audience. Will I get invited to next year's Black Friday webinar now?
Yes, you will. Jelana?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's absolutely right? Like I think it's also balance, right? If you start going the discounting route, if you start taking it, what can happen is that you will essentially educate your consumers to wait until Black Friday, Cyber Monday to buy. So like for Peloton, I think it's one of the biggest learnings is that while Black Friday, Cyber Monday, and the holiday period, the holiday gifting period, and then New Year's is like the most important season for us because this is when we sell the most. We also know that we have educated our consumers to wait until now for the best deal. So it's just, we're aware of that. Hence, it's an extremely important period for us. And, for us, like if we win, let's say, the holiday season and it starts with Black Friday, Cyber Monday, then we also win the year. So with that, I think on my sort of like top 3 like marketing checklist is and it sounds scary for some startups, but long-term planning, it's like the holy grail. So, and with long-term planning, I mean, you start with a segmentation. So you need to understand who you're talking to, who are your customers, who will you be addressing? And then you build your media strategy accordingly. So start early. For us, for instance, like we start around August and September, and we start with an awareness and consideration campaign. So if you look at the marketing funnel, right, like if you haven't built the initial awareness and consideration, then there's not going to be anyone to actually pull through and acquire. So for us, like we start building awareness and consideration early with our media and with our campaign and messaging. And then during Black Friday, Cyber Monday, and then going into the holiday season, we really like go hard on acquisition. So we go with like a message that's, promotion, offer led. Right. So what I'm saying here is start early, have your media plan ready, and then accordingly have your campaign and your messaging plan ready. So that's, number 2. And there's so much more nuance to this, but it's kind of like the essence. And then, know what your competitors are doing. When are they starting? What kind of offers do they have? So you can actually compete with that and have a backup offer. So when you see that your sales are too slow, you're not hitting the forecast, and if this is like your essential period, you need to have a backup offer ready. It needs to be approved. You need to have your creative, and then you just have to go live with it. So I think that's like the biggest learning for us at Peloton. We've done this many, many times, and every time we ended up in a situation where like all of a sudden, like last minute, we had to change the offer, we had to change the creative. It gets really, really stressful. So I think like our biggest learning last year was to actually have that backup offer ready already so that we could pull the trigger whenever we needed to pull the trigger. And then, last but not least, and that's not for everyone, but for some companies, it's important, is legal. So involve your legal team, have your legal lines, check if it's all fine, if your offer and the messaging that you have is, like in line with legal guidelines, but also take risks whenever needed. So it's kind of, it's like a balance as well. Yeah, that's for me.
A couple of things come to mind for me. So this may be completely obvious, but having internal alignment, even past legal, there's so many teams and functions that are involved, whether it's supply chain, finance, marketing, everyone is involved when it comes to having an offer or getting a product in the hands of a customer. So really focusing on having internal alignment, whether that means having a core team, someone from each function, or just having everyone in the same room in order to that internal alignment, making everyone aware of what's coming for the future with holiday marketing. Secondly, I would talk about personalized incentives. So doing personalized incentives based on the audience segments you're targeting. Joanna mentioned a lot about acquisition. I tend to think a lot about engagement and retention as well for customers that you already have within your loyalty program. So really doing different things outside of just those offers to protect the margin that your company may be offering to your customers. And then last thing, I think one thing that's not spoken about a lot, but is really important, is really educating your crew members, your staff, your baristas, anyone that's involved in any touch points with the customers, because if the customer has a bad experience with your brand, that's the last thing that they think about. And that could cause someone to not necessarily come and shop at your store or your restaurant ever again because of that single experience. So really making sure educate your team members all across the board to make sure your customers have the best experience.
Right. You have to think about all the touch points and you have to think long term. It's not just about the holiday marketing period of acquiring and engaging them the first time, but it's all about retaining them throughout so that they make that repeat purchase. I want to just circle back very quickly to one of the points that you said, Jelana, around making sure that you are aware about what your competitors are doing. Because to other brands, that's difficult to know what they're planning ahead of time, or how does one go about that? Do you look at what they did previously, like last year or past years, or do you, I don't know, what sort of, is there a platform that can get into what they're planning?
If there is a platform, I would love to know about it. But to be honest, like historical data. So just know what they have been doing when they have started. What we usually do is we have like a spreadsheet where we collect every offer, every competitor offer that we see out there with like a date, and we kind of like it's a little bit manual, but I'm pretty sure there's some hacky ways of doing it quicker, but we do it across the globe, and then we just collect all the offers, so like we see what competitors are doing. And the other thing that we're doing to understand what our consumer needs are is we do research on what sort of offers resonate the most, because that's another thing, right? Like you can think you're prepared and you can think that you have a great offer, but thinking is not, a verified, it's kind of like finger in the air. And that is totally legit for some. But in the end of the day, like if you really want to win, then I think it helps a lot to like know what consumers want.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Just picking up on what Ulana and Jelana and Ali said, particularly around if things are not going well, have a backup plan. If things go really well, you also need a backup plan, right? Because sometimes you might need to pull some of the incentive, but also think about what happens if you run into an out of stock, right? So you've been offering these amazing deals, but then you run out of stock of a particular product. How do you have a backup plan in terms of alternative products, right? Collecting information so that you can follow up with out of stock notifications. So when they're back in stock, right? So you're collecting that data from customers, and perhaps even, because you've let a customer down, how do you then make it up to them even further by maybe there was a 10% discount, but maybe because you're out of stock, they get 10% and free delivery, right? So how do you kind of build that success into this as well? And then the point of, Black Friday, as everyone's mentioned, it's not a surprise, right? It's not been a surprise now for a few years, even in the UK. But it's not the only campaign in the year. So again, it doesn't sit there on its own. You need to think about what you've done before Black Friday and what you're planning on doing after Black Friday, Cyber Monday, with Christmas and the New Year sales and the spring sales and the end of summer sales, right? So where does it fit in with that overall discounting and incentive and loyalty strategy that you have?
Absolutely. Very, very valid.
Maybe one last thing that I thought, and it's kind of like adding to what Ali had said as well. To when you do your campaigns and your discounts, you should also take into account what, if you have 3P, like third parties, if you're selling on third parties, you need to also keep them informed. So not only inform your internal stakeholders and your team and make sure that everyone is aligned and knows exactly what the offers are, but also make sure you know exactly what 3P is doing, but also keep them informed, because you can really step on people's toes and ruin some really good and solid partnership.
That works both ways, doesn't it, Jelana, right? So how close is your relationship with 3P? And they go, you're going to tell us what you're planning on?
Yeah. It goes both ways, exactly.
Yeah.
Right. So really there are more than top three. There's a lot that you have to take into account. But hopefully with everything that you guys have shared so far, the audience can pick up at least the top 3 that they can run with or take into account when building their checklist if they haven't already. So we talked about the classic must-haves, essential. All of these are really essential anyway, so it just depends on the business. But in terms of new addition, in terms of like anything that marketers might not have already or not yet explored to add to their marketing plan specifically for the holiday marketing campaign, what is there any AI perhaps?
Yes, that is a great lifting off point. And I think one thing that John mentioned was doing marketing throughout the entire year. It's not just Black Friday is a one-time event, but thinking of the entire year as a whole. Talon One has a handful of clients that are currently using AI to determine which offers work best for their customers. And so understanding using generative AI to determine which offers work, which offers speak to customers, and which ones actually cause them to make a transaction. So really being able to test and learn using generative AI to determine those offers. And so doing that prior to Black Friday, and then what you've learned using those learning for Black Friday.
And I think the other thing, and AI, of course, amazing. And if you are in a company where you can quickly test and learn new tools, that's great. If you're like in a bigger company, sometimes that can take a little longer until it, gets through all the compliance and whatnot, like instances. But the kind of like tried and tested thing for Black Friday, but generally for marketing campaigns, is working with creators, working with influencers, and it doesn't have to be expensive, like big tier, like, high tier influencers, but it can be mid tier to micro influencers, creators who can create great content for you that will resonate really well. And, we've done our fair share of this at Peloton, and we have seen that sometimes, or even oftentimes, like creator ads that are like extremely engaging perform better than our ads that are sort of like sitting within our overall campaign messaging. So that can be a really cost-effective way for businesses to really like promote their product, as well as UGC, because, when we're talking about building trust, like actually like using ads or, having ads with your clients and customers, with your community who are speaking about the product work really well. And they don't have to look high quality and glossy. They can be like a little more scrappy, and that works really well. And then, sorry, the last thing I'll say, and it's not at all innovative, but I mean, we've also seen that, like it doesn't always have to be fancy, like literally like just a static with like a strike through offer can work wonders. So yeah, just kind of like have different formats and test them. I think that to me is good.
Jan, sorry, we lost you for a bit, but I wondered if you had anything to ask.
No, apologies if I now repeat everything that Ellie and Jelana said. But for me, I think that the influencer piece, I think, is really important. And also, just picking up on that number, around 53% of people buying through a mobile device earlier on in the slide deck. Think about the channels, if you've not done so already, but think about the channels that are of the moment, right? So and I'm not saying this is right for everybody, but if you are using, for example, WhatsApp as one of your channels, and that's part of your brand DNA, then absolutely you should be using WhatsApp as part of your strategy going forward in terms of that channel usage. And whether it's, as you know, I've been playing around with TikTok a little bit, and whether TikTok is the right place for you to do it, or Instagram. I think it's making sure that if you're not exploiting those channels where you naturally sit, do that, but don't try and crowbar something that you're not already using, because I think that, and particularly if you're starting to think about it now, because I think it's too late to try and crowbar that into your strategy for the end of the month, end of the next month. So I think that they're the two main ones for me, right? Think about those channels there of the moment, I think. And that also includes retail, so the physical element as well. So what's happening? We talked about the importance of keeping colleagues abreast of what's going on. So I think that often giving in-store colleagues or consultants some leeway in terms of what they can do, right? So can they do some kind of this real surprise and delight as part of a Black Friday moment as well? I think that can cause beautiful storytelling, right? And we'll get your customers talking about your brand if a Black Friday something just gets popped into the conversation or into the bag, or onto the POS system. So I think flexibly about the channels that you've already got.
Right. Stuff. And I do agree with Joanna as well in terms of the influencer marketing. I've definitely seen firsthand how that can be so powerful. We work with one health and fitness brands, Sweatcoin, and they've really leveraged influencer marketing. And in 2022, that was when they were voted the number one downloaded app around the world, like globally, because of their influencer marketing campaign as well, that helped them generate about 10 million users in 6 months or even less. I can't remember, but it was very, very, very impressive. So I genuinely believe whether it's not necessarily new, and a few brands have already tried it, but there's many ways that you can, I guess, do it without having to.
But I guess, kind of briefly with the influencer conversation, I think that you need to understand your influencers, right? So, the micro, macro, mega influencers, right? So which of those influencer sets drive you traffic? Which of them are really good for creating content? And which of them kind of do a bit of the both, right? Create content, drive traffic, but more importantly, drive conversion, right? So I think I don't think it's a carte blanche. I don't think you just do it with everybody, but I think about the right influencers that you should be using at this time of year as well.
Agreed, because you can join the two, right? So your influencer and your influencer marketing strategy with your user-generated content strategy. Those two can go hand in hand.
100%, yeah. And I think maybe I'm going to say the very obvious, but, when the influencer or creator creates the content for you, they're basically creating an ad for you that you can then use for your performance marketing and for your, acquisition marketing. So it's kind of like hitting, two birds with one stone. Again, like, I'm sorry for any animal lovers here. We don't want to harm any animals. Maybe suspect to any animal. Yeah, there's outrage, I see it. But yeah, think about that. Like, it's one, to get the reach of the influencer, and plus you can use that as your ad. So win-win.
Clever. Cool. Let's move on. Let's talk about bargain hunters. But first, before I ask the question around this, actually, I wanna hear from you guys your own definition of bargain hunters. Now, this can be your own personal definition, or this can be based on the brand that you work with. So Peloton, and of course from Talon One, what does that mean actually for you guys, and brands that you work as well with, Ali, and also Jen, being a CRM advisor for so many well-known brands. What does that mean? What does bargain hunters, how do you define it? Let's start with maybe Ali.
Sure, I can go first. When I think of bargain hunters, similar to what we've been saying previously, customers who are specifically waiting for that discount or for that specific time period that they will get amount or percentage or dollars off a specific purchase. I think that's a lot of the reason why brands use Talon One, is to become more targeted and personalized. That way they aren't rewarding behaviors that every single customer is already doing, but they're becoming very, very targeted. But that would be my definition.
John?
Completely, yeah, I agree. I agree with that, Ali. And I guess waiting for that discount, but also knowing that they are buying for a specific reason, right? So there are a number of people that will come to you at this time of year because they're specifically looking, not bizarrely, but they're doing the Christmas shopping, right? So this is when they come to you, and buy everything that they need for the festive Christmas season. So again, thinking about bargain hunters, not just because they want the discount, but also because of what they're trying to buy and what their needs and wants are at that particular time of year. I think that's crucial to thinking about the overall definition of a bargain hunter for you as a brand.
Yeah, and maybe just to add, I mean, it also depends again on the country that you're in. Like, let's say, I mean, I'm in Germany. Germans love a good deal. Maybe everyone does, but Germans especially love a good deal. And it doesn't matter, like Peloton is selling high ticket items. So anyone who comes to Peloton to buy a Peloton bike, a Peloton tread, is signing themselves up for like a really expensive product plus membership. So, these are clients who have actually had like a longer consideration period that led them there, right? But nonetheless, like the way we define bargain hunters was essentially like we just know people will buy during the holiday season, or so we're gonna give them like a good offer so that they can feel a little better about themselves by not buying at full price. But yeah, a good deal is a good deal.
And I'll be, there are as well bargain hunters who just are bargain hunters, right? They're not specifically waiting for Black Friday. They're not necessarily buying for Christmas. They just they literally get, they go along with the wave, right? They kind of go, wow. And I fall for it every now and again as well, right? Because I can go, wow, that's a good buy. Do I really need it? Doesn't matter. Look at the price, right? So there is that element of a bargain hunter as well, right? Yeah.
That is so interesting. And I have a question actually that is a good follow-up to what you just said, but it'll be good to hear your thoughts. But before then, so thanks for definition. So how can brands then maximize profits from bargain hunters, especially during holiday season? What are your thoughts on this? The question first is that can brands maximize profits from bargain hunters? And if so,
yeah. So Ali mentioned it earlier. I mean, when she talked about how you segment your customers, right, and the level of personalization that you're giving. So I'm gonna now upset some more animal lovers, right? So because sometimes it's about giving that wolf a banana before it eats your gram. If you will, right? So it's what level of discount you need to give away to make that customer feel that they've got a bargain, right? So I think that if you're smart enough about this, you can at least minimize the level of discounting you need to do to make a customer happy. But then, as both Joanna and Ali have mentioned, it's thinking about this is a long-term play, right? So the offer that you've delivered and has been taken by the customer over Black Friday, Cyber Monday is often the entry point to the brand, right? So it's then how you think about customer lifetime value and how you can create that relationship with the customer, wrap them up in cotton wool for the next 30 days or however long is right for the product that they just bought, and maximize the relationship you have with that customer so that they are there. Hopefully they'll spend before the next Black Friday, Cyber Monday. So I think it's about thinking longer term, and this is just the entry point to the brand, or maybe not the brand, but introducing an existing customer into a new category that they with the brand as well. So thinking about it longer term, it is the right way to approach it, I think.
Yeah, I agree. And also just, like a very real life example, usually, when we've acquired like a substantial amount of new users and new customers during the holiday season, starting with Black Friday, what we then do, we have a loyalty program, and then we usually like introduce like double rewards to these new clients to then really, maximize them as like new ambassadors and like new sort of like spokespeople. So, we give them the opportunity to draw someone in, give them a really good deal, and also receive a really good deal in return. So like that, again, like as a long-term play, like how do you pull people in, like keep them excited. And then the other part goes beyond what, us marketing people can do. And it's all about the product. It's about your content. It's about your ecosystem, right? Like it all has to work, like, deliver, give, like be beneficial to your new clients in order for them to stick around and become ambassadors.
I love how you guys brought up like the life cycle marketing, because that's exactly where it goes when it comes to creating and maximizing profits during the holiday season. Specifically with, I mentioned before, delaying that margin hit. So instead of offering a 25% off discount, if you already have these customers and they are engaged with your brand, offering double points, as Joanna mentioned, doing point acceleration, offering cash back, giving them some sort of reason to come back to your brand to shop, and doing that within a specific time period. So if you do offer cash back, making that within maybe a 2-week period or a 1-month period, that way they don't forget and actually use it. But really doing things to elongate the margin by offering loyalty incentives.
Yes, and it's almost like none of these are possible, though, if none of this is possible if we don't know data, we don't have the data, because ultimately it all boils down to that, and then being able to cluster those customers to be able to give them the appropriate or the right discount, right offer, or, messaging, even personalized messaging, to be able to, as you said, Ali, provide those discounts and elongate those discounts to specific clusters. Amazing. Okay, now, John, going back to that point you mentioned around still bargain hunters, but my question here is that can you really convert bargain hunters, those that are really just looking for discounts? It doesn't matter if it's holiday marketing, but throughout the year, can you really convert them into loyal customers? Is that possible?
Well, I think we'd be kidding ourselves if we said it's always possible, because it's not always possible, right? So if you're buying, in particular, if you've gone into this buying something because it's a bargain, and then you end up never using it, and probably not, right? But if the product that they've bought is of some value to them, and Peloton's a great brand, right? So they're great pieces of kit, and the follow up is amazing, and the membership is fantastic, right? So there's no excuse with the product, right? As long as the product meets or surpasses expectations, then I think you can, right? But I think that if people who are just buying things because they're cheap, I'm not sure, right? So not sure. I was about to say, we've all bought stuff off Temu. Well, I have, right? So, and you kind of go, I know why it's cheap now. I'm not, maybe I won't go back there again, right? Because I've had, I've burned my fingers with that. But I think that, that different definition of a bargain hunter. I think if you're waiting for that moment to buy that product, as Ali mentioned, then as long as the product not just meets but surpasses expectations, the level of service that you give them surpasses expectations, then yes, you can turn that customer into a valuable long-term customer of yours. But you know what? It's boiling down to data, right? It's how you can use your data to understand the types of customers that you have, why they've come to you, and almost, there's a lot of conversations at the moment around understanding intent, right? So again, how can you use intent, understanding customer intent, to work out whether, in reality, they were just a bargain hunter, right? I mean, because they landed on if we look at electronics, they landed on a camera page, right? But ended up buying a TV. Maybe they were just looking for a bargain, right? So you might not be able to convert them. But if they were very specific in their intent and their purpose was very driven around a particular product category, then how do you do that? And also, you can do it. I used to do some work with BT, with British Telecom, and we used to look at where our customers came from when we stole them from Sky TV or from TalkTalk or from Virgin or wherever. And the way that we treated them was based on where they came from. So we knew, for example, that if they'd come from Talk, they'd come from a low package, low price deal offer, and they'd come to us because of the offer. So we treated them in that way, right? So we didn't try and sell them, upgrade them to an amazing broadband service or high definition TV, because we knew that they were bargain hunters, right? So we treated them in a slightly different way, as opposed to someone who'd come from Sky, who was very keen on the quality and breadth of content, right? And they didn't mind paying extra for it. So they got the, why not watch your Discovery in HD? You know, here's this extra channel that shows you, I don't know, French film noir or whatever, but you pay extra for it. Just understanding, you can understand their intent and their mindset when they come to you. I think you can do that. I think you can upsell, you can cross sell, but also, you know, think about just maintaining them as a customer, right? Because I think that all adds to as long as they're not costing you money to serve, they're all adding to the bottom line.
Absolutely. Any more to add? Okay. Thanks, John. Let's move on to the next one, which is around high ticket items. And I mentioned earlier that one of the topics that we're going to be talking about is how to break down barriers to conversion, specifically with high ticket items. And Jelana, you're probably the best person here to also share some insights into this. Peloton being a very expensive brand. Actually, for context, how much is, I think you're allowed to say, because you can see it from the website anyway. How much is a bike cost?
I mean, you really will, like, it's different. It depends on the market, you know, you're in. So I'm not going to say like euros or pounds, but, you know, think over 2K.
Over 2K.
Yeah, but you can get, you know, it also depends. You can get a refurb, you can get a bike, you can get a bike plus. And so, you know, you can also land somewhere under 2K. So you can be somewhere at like 1.5 or something like that. But in the end of the day, I mean, there's absolutely ways to get like a cheaper Peloton bike, but in the end, like, you'll still be paying subscription if you want to use it in the way where you like will use class content. So it is definitely like a purchase where you have to like consider, like, it's usually not an impulsive buy. So like, we know that people will take their time until they actually make the decision. So hence, like, they're like, from when they first hear it till the buying decision, there's like I'd say like substantial amount of time that passes that where we need to hit the customer with like adequate messaging. So like that kind of like leads me into what I was going to say is like, you know, we've talked a lot about like segmentation and knowing our customers, knowing their needs, knowing exactly who they are. So when you understand who it is who's going to buy your product, you need to like address them in such a way. So like, first of all, like, where are they? Where are they coming from? Be there, speak to them. And then like, what are their needs? Like, what are, you know, like, what are their reasons to believe? Like, is it flexibility that they're looking for? Is it convenience? Like, is it health? You know, is it like a particular fitness goal that they have? And really like connect with that and like tap into that. So like, your messaging strategy needs to reflect, first of all, your customer, and secondly, what they're looking for and their needs, like, to actually convince them. And then last but not least, of, you know, like, buying an expensive product also requires a like substantial amount of trust. So like, people need to like trust that your product is actually going to deliver what they're looking for, and that they're, you know, buying into something of value. So what we've done here is, for instance, in Germany, you know, it's obviously like Peloton is a US company. Germans take longer to build trust. So being really local with your marketing is important. So we've worked, for instance, with Jürgen Klopp. He's extremely well known, not just in Germany, but also, you know, outside of Germany. But we've worked with Jürgen Klopp as our ambassador, who really, you know, moved the needle for us, right? Like, we've had like several like big scale campaigns with him. And not only is he like a testimonial, but he really, really loves and, you know, believes in the product, and that really helps. So it's kind of like, you know, not only having a great product and then talking to the people, to your customer in such a way that they need what the benefits that they need to hear, but also like find your testimonial, and find the people who will give your brand the credibility that it deserves. So I think that's maybe like simple boiling it down, because it's obviously like it takes much more than this, but being extremely local is one of those things to build trust.
Thank you. Does anyone want to add to that?
I would just say too, even the like overall experience. So Joanna talked about like all the different touch points being very localized, but like surprising and delighting. Doing non-transactional benefits for those customers. So if you buy online, can you pick up in store? Can you have a personal shopper? Doing different things like that to really close the entire circle as it leads to actually having them convert.
And also word of mouth is extremely important. So if you look after it, depends on how you do your marketing, but at the end of the day, that is the trust there. So if people start talking about your brand because you've done good service, it's a really genuinely good product, then people will naturally start talking about it to their friends, their families, and then you have voila, build trust and generate new customers there.
Totally. It's kind of like thinking about a way to activate your community that you already have, to like share more, to talk more about your product, and really like surfacing all these positive reviews. Like, how do you show positive reviews on your website, in your marketing, from CRM to, like paid, to your website. And then like in Germany, especially, people really trust like seals and badges. So, but it's like, there's thousands of different like seals around. So you need to be, really sure like what kind of like seals of approval you want on your website. But those can really help you as well, especially when you're like a new brand entering the market, like such as TÜV or, Stiftung Warentest, which is independent, but like, there are ways to at least kind of like get their attention.
Absolutely. I've got one last question, and I've been told that we're running out of time. So one last question, and I know I promised the audience that we're going to share some tips to those who are preparing Black Friday, Cyber Monday strategy at last minute. Any quick tips for them? John, do you have any?
If you haven't started thinking about it, it's not too late. But as Joanna and Ali have mentioned, keep it simple, right? It doesn't have to be perfect. As an image with a stripe, with a band through it will work, right? Because people are looking for discounts this time of year. So it's not too late. It's also not too late to start planning for next year.
Yeah, and I think also like use the channels that are like available to you quickly. So yeah, like, and maybe some cost-effective channels such as like social media and CRM.
Excellent.
I think the last thing that I would say to bring it full circle is the thing that Jan mentioned at the very beginning was staying true to your brand. So if offering large discounts is not for your brand, brainstorming ideas of what you can do throughout the entire season, like outside of Black Friday. So thinking of that long-term marketing, those long loyalty strategies, truly just staying true to your brand, but keeping that engagement alive and using the channels that Joanna just mentioned.
Amazing. Thank you. Are there any questions from the audience? Now is the time. Don't see any, but of course, as I mentioned earlier, this is recorded and we will be sharing this recording to you all via email alongside the presentation. And if you do have questions, feel free to respond to that email and we will respond with the answers. Before I let you go though, I did say that at the end, there is going to be a special announcement and a surprise giveaway. So without further ado, I would like to share my screen again and give the stage to Gianfranco. Can you see my screen? Perfect. Gian, over to you.
It's very kind of you. So Arby and the team at MoEngage very kindly offered to give away 20 copies of my book. As you see, it's called In Pursuit of a Trivial, a book about nothing. Just wanted to write a book. Some people ask me, how long did it take me to write the book? I often say 25 years because I've done this stuff for a while. It's not a book that will solve all of your marketing problems. I didn't want to do one of those books where I wanted to come across as being the expert. So this is just 7 perspectives on little stories and how they get spun into CRM, data strategies, customer journey planning. But definitely the highlight of the book is, if you read all the way through the back pages, there is my mother's recipe for lasagna, which is a classic Neapolitan recipe for lasagna. So well worth checking your email to see whether you're one of the lucky 20 that gets a copy of this book, or unlucky 20. So yeah, thank you again, Arby and the team, for sharing this with the audience.
Thank you, Gian, and we'll sure be checking out that recipe from your mother. That's a really great bonus to have in the book.
Speakers, thank you so much for your perspectives and time, of course. And thanks again, everyone, for joining us in this webinar today. Congratulations to all those, to the lucky 20 winners. You will receive an email. Keep an eye out, and we will be sending a copy of Gianfranco's book. So, and to all those who registered, by the way, to this webinar, of course, you're also not going away with nothing. You will receive free access to our ready-to-use 80 Black Friday, Cyber Monday, and beyond email subject lines, and also an ebook on different examples of holiday marketing campaigns, which you will also receive via email. Until then, the next holiday marketing webinar we will announce again via email for next year. Thanks, everyone, and enjoy the rest of your day. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.